While exploring Dartmoor on Google Earth, I came across this curious landmark, a near-perfect circular pool, standing out from the dry, barren landscape around it. It looked like an oasis, surrounded by other, more irregular patches of water. The surrounding land is what many would call a biological desert, degraded, compacted, and often bone dry. Earlier this year, I visited another part of Dartmoor where the earth was literally washing away, the soil eroding, the water rushing off. This is ecological desertification, a quiet undoing of thousands of years of soil formation. And it's not just here. I've seen this in the uplands of Wales and Scotland too. It's happening on every UK upland. But this pool here, this got me thinking. If water can hold on this land, can life return too? And when I realised that it wasn't far from one of my favourite places, Wismans Wood, a fragment of temperate rainforest, it felt like the perfect route to tell a different kind of story. Not just a story of what we've lost, but also of what can come back and how we can shape a better future for all. So our first stop on this journey is Wismans Wood. It's something of a cult hero in the rewilding world, and rightly or wrongly, it's become really widely known as one of Britain's best examples of temperate rainforest. So for those who don't know, this is a small patch of upland Atlantic rainforest. It's one of 3 upland oak forests like this in Dartmoor. You've got Powell's Copse, which I haven't been to yet, and very recently we went to the other one, which is Blacktor Copse. And they are just simply stunning. They're a visual spectacle which changes throughout the year. I think one of the advantages which temperate rainforest has over tropical rainforest is that this evolves and moves with the seasons. They are ethereal in their form. It really is otherworldly when you gaze upon the gnarly ancient oaks overlapping and creating a tapestry woven with lichens, mosses and ferns. Yeah, and while it's epic to look at, its ecosystem services are just off the charts, and biodiversity here is booming as well. It's one of our best all-round habitats. It is our pinnacle habitat here in Britain. While rainforest is magnificent, it has a slightly ugly cousin. Peat bogs. So while this does on the surface just look like a load of boggy wet water, and that's kind of what it is, what it also is it's an ancient wetland which is forming over thousands of years. And it's this plant here, this is known as sphagnum moss, and it really controls the show in these ecosystems. If sessile oaks are the superstars of temperate rainforest, and sphagnum moss are the maestros of peat bogs, just 1 kilogram of dried moss can hold up to 20 litres of water. Sphagnum moss is also really special for how it forms peat. Due to the anaerobic conditions of these habitats, what happens is the sphagnum moss dies as it becomes waterlogged further down, but then it continues to grow on top, and it just keeps forming layers and layers, and it gets deeper and deeper and deeper. It is an incredibly slow process, forming just 1 millimetre a year. So you've got peat bogs and you've got rainforest. I would say these are the 2 pinnacle habitats here on Dartmoor, and really of our uplands. You have peat bogs, wetland areas and woodland, but these habitats, they have been grazed, they've been hacked down and burned really into submission. We only have tiny fragments left. And really this long history of farming, not just on Dartmoor but across all of our uplands in the UK, while it is central to the identity of the land, it also explains the vast ecological losses that we've had. But it also shows the opportunities which we have. And down here there's some tadpoles which are they're trying to make the most of it. Good luck, guys. So what do we have to do to bring life back to our uplands? Well, what we have to do really is quite simple, but how we go about doing it it's another matter. One thing I'm noticing while en route is the land is just so dry, so crispy underfoot. The recent fires which we've seen sort of getting out of hand here in Britain, it's because of this. It's because of this. Controlled burns have started, or sometimes it can be discarded barbecues, cigarettes or whatever. This is like it's like one of those eco firelighters. So this is purple moorgrass, otherwise known as millennia. This has formed monoculture over many of our uplands because of grazing. The animals don't really like to eat it, and then it forms a monoculture. What on earth is that? It's It's the only tree I've seen up here for miles, and it's a bleeding, it's not native. I mean, that just takes the absolute pee, doesn't it? The only tree out here for miles. And it's whatever this is, I don't even know what that is. So I looked it up, and it's a young Sitka spruce. I mean, of course it is. I shouldn't have been that surprised because there's plantations of these non-native invasives everywhere. Maybe I'm missing something, but there's another one of these trees. What? I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, we press on. This one's been a bit of a mission, actually. Ah, here we go, here we go. This is looking good. This is what you want to see up here. Look at this. Water, moss, sphagnum moss. That's the sound you want to hear. So how do we bring them back? Well, we have to start to undo some of the damage which we've done, and we have to help the land retain water. Look at this, beautiful stuff here. Look at this one. It's like a little pond. So it's been a really dry spring, now heading into summer. And this land is still pretty wet. It's still retaining water. And I think one of the things which has happened here is we've seen a peatland restoration technique, which is reprofiling. So reprofiling is all about reshaping the land so it can retain water. So, you know, in recent videos, we've seen some severely degraded and eroding peatlands on Dartmoor too, but also over in Wales, where the land is just falling apart. So when you're reprofiling the land, you're reshaping it, you're smoothing it out so it can retain the water once again. And then once the land has been reprofiled, what you want to do is you want to get in material, ideally sphagnum moss, which is going to come in and retain and store that water. So as well as reprofiling, we've also got this other aim, which is just stopping water flowing off the land. And I think here, some timber has been used to just slow down the flow and like pull it here, and here. You know, over time we have created vast networks of drainage channels to make it easier to farm, graze animals, and, you know, plant timber for forestry. So blocking these up is really important. Again, this looks a lot like some reprofiling efforts. It's almost like you would dig a pond much deeper in the middle and then sort of like sloping sides coming up. And as for this main pool, I believe this to be natural. I think the blanket bog around here would have been much more extensive, hence the restoration efforts around it. I kind of think this looks like a creature's skull with a stubby nose and two sharp fangs. Maybe one of the beasts of Dartmoor lives within. Look at this pool here, it's just absolutely buzzing with life. And this is the thing about getting water back into our landscapes. It's not only absolutely fundamental for ecology and for nature, but for us, you know, the ecosystem services of places like this, you know, to mitigate against flooding, to mitigate against fire, we need water in our landscapes. So that's restoring peat bogs, but what about restoring temperate rainforest and woodlands in general on our uplands? Well, it's not necessarily about planting rows of trees. What it really is about is protecting areas like this, existing areas that we already have. All of the little fragments of ancient woodland which we have scattered throughout our uplands, like here, Wismans Wood and Blacktail Copse, the ones that we've seen recently, we need to protect these, and one of the main ways that we can do that is by stopping grazing. It's undoubtedly one of the key pressures which is preventing their regeneration. And this could be as simple as just putting up a fence, or in the best case scenario, just exclude grazing from that entire area, not just the woodland itself, but the areas outside of it. Like here, in these areas, we're seeing some oaks coming up. Something's working here because there are lots of little baby oaks scattered around. And how do we know where to restore our woodlands? Well, these plants like this is bracken, this is a great indicator of where woodlands once stood. Yes, this one is next to Wismans Wood, but what you'll often find if you go off out walking in, say, pastures or on the open moors, you'll find these woodland indicators. But in many parts of our uplands, there are no trees left, there is no natural seed stores. So we're starting from nothing. This is where careful tree planting and then herbivore and grazing management has to come into play. But when you're talking about restoring rainforest, trees are only part of the story. The other part are all of these epiphytes, the mosses and the lichens. Transplanting these isn't something that we've been quite successful at. I think it's new territory. The guys over at the 1,000 Year Trust, this is something which is going to be part of their new research station. They're going to find out just how easy it is to grow and then transplant these important species into these habitats. I've got to be careful where I'm treading because there are just loads and loads of baby oaks. Look at all of these here, look. Oh my God, this tree here must have just dumped a load of acorns down, and look at it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's just so many. The other thing to keep in mind with temperate rainforest restoration is that it's going to take a long time. It's going to take centuries. Yes, trees can establish within decades, but you know, to really realize the vision, it's going to take an awful long time. And we now need to be the ones who are going to push the needle in that direction. We're not going to see it, but we can be the ones to start it. According to Natural England's latest assessment, nearly every protected habitat across Dartmoor is now in decline. Decades of grazing pressures, burning and failed environmental schemes have left these vital ecosystems, blanket bogs, wet heaths, acidic grasslands and temperate rainforests, struggling to survive. And despite millions in public money, we're seeing little to no recovery. If anything, we're funding the failure. Now, I want to be clear, rewilding and restoring the uplands isn't about stopping food production. To be honest, I don't really know how much food is produced up here on Dartmoor. It can't be a lot. It's about reimagining. It's about finding new and better and more efficient ways. The thing is, farming in the uplands is a really difficult job. The soil's thin, the weather can be bleak, and you know, most farmers, before they get subsidies from the government, I think they make around 10 to 15,000 a year. So around 80 to 90% of their total income comes from the government. Sheep farming, upland farming really isn't a sustainable long-term business, at least not now. But here's the thing, here's where it gets interesting. Ever since Britain left the EU, the UK government has been rethinking farming and the incentives which they pay farmers, and they've come up with ELMS, Environmental Land Management. So although it's been a little bit bumpy and there's been a little bit of backwards and forwards on this agreement, the idea behind it is that farmers will be incentivized, they will be paid to not only produce food, but manage the land as well. Look, not every farmer is on board with it yet. There's this transition period from the old EU stuff to what we've got now, but it is moving in the right direction, and that feels really good. And I think it's really important to put farmers at the center of our upland restoration, because after all, they are the ones who live here, they are the ones who work on this land, but we have to incentivize them to do so. And look, here's the bit where it gets really exciting for me. If we are to focus on just rewilding our uplands here in Britain, I did some maths on this. I think it's around 60,000 square miles of upland areas. I think that's about 40% of the country's land mass. Now, like I said, we don't have to stop producing food here. We just have to do it better. All of the animals which I've seen out here on Dartmoor, I think they'd be pretty happy if they had some trees around them. It's just so vast and so open. But it's not just limited to Dartmoor. I'm talking about the Lake District, the Pennines, the Peaks, the Scottish Highlands. You know, even if we rewilded just half of our uplands, that would be tens of thousands of square miles of just goodness. And it's not just about ecology and restoring nature for the sake of it. We could shift to a whole new economy for rural areas. It could just breathe new life into them, a nature-based economy. That sounds really exciting to me. If you've got this far in the video, then why not subscribe? The best way to support Leave Curious is by becoming a member over on Patreon. You not only support us there, but you can engage with the community and see behind the scenes content. First link's on the screen now. Here's a video to keep watching the channel. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Leave Curious.